So if you'd rather not be visible on the recording, just turn your camera off at this point. Great. So my background isn't really in growing. I normally work in production and in coordination in the arts. I work for the Comedy Festival, amongst others. And within 2 weeks of lockdown, all my work had been cancelled for the upcoming crazy summer season. So I found myself without much going on. And I'm sure, like many of you, were wondering what I would do. A lot of mixed emotions in there. And my main concern was that I was busy and doing something useful. And so I started volunteering for Planna Fwyd after a couple of weeks of lockdown. And I do grow. I grow just outside Mach in Fwyd, but I'm by no means an expert grower. So Planna Fwyd came out of several things really that came up during this time. The food shortages we all saw in the supermarkets, things like pasta and flour were really hard to come by for a little bit. And that kind of hit home how vulnerable our food system is. The other thing that was really noticeable was how our economic system was sort of based on this just-in-time, like last-minute deliveries, and the whole system was incredibly fragile. People were panic buying, and we thought we wouldn't have enough pickers for fruit and veg over the summer season because we rely so much on foreign workers to come and do that for us. So, and also just to add in some facts and figures, 50% of our food, general food in the UK is imported. And in terms of fruit and veg, over 75% of what we eat is imported. So we're only producing 25% of what we're eating in the UK. And that is largely because we're exporting a lot. So our economic system is really dependent on what we're growing, but also we're not really growing enough. And so out of all of these things, the panic buying, the food shortages, the lack of pickers, and this realization of how much more food we needed in the UK, really spurred a lot of us on to get involved, get together, and grow. Was basically the simple premise of it. So that was pretty exciting. There was, and there still is, a lot of enthusiasm and motivation and collective feeling that I'm sure a lot of you feel as well. I don't know, how many of you are growers at the moment? How many of you are growing things? Most people are growers in some way or other. So yeah, and Planna Fwyd, which is Welsh for plant food, sprung out of the work that Mac Marathon has been doing for 8 years in terms of food, in local food in the area, and also all the other growers, local growers. And really our mission is to increase local food production and also local food security in the area, and to share our skills and resources and time with each other. So with the magic of technology, it's really weird not having any feedback and not hearing other voices. I'm just going to share my screen. Any minute now. Okay, could somebody, Rachel, maybe could you unmute yourself and tell me when you can see this image?
Coming, yeah, we got it. Yeah, we got it.
Great. So we're a collective. Oh, wow, this is great. We're a collective of people from all sorts of walks of life. We're growers and non-growers, we're freelancers, people who are full-time working, people who are part-time working, parents, and we're all volunteering our time to make this project happen. There are about 15 of us coordinators, and you can see some of them on the screen here. We meet for a weekly Zoom chat. And there are about 50 people who are actively contributing, also feeding into these meetings, and about 150 people already signed up to our mailing list. We operate a non-hierarchical structure, which means that we make big decisions collectively, but actively each person can lead their own project within that. So I'm going to talk about 5 of our projects. We realised recently how much we're doing. So I've just whittled it down to 5. I'm going to talk about Dovey, which is a family seed pack project. I'm going to talk about seed and seedling swaps, so field scale farmers, the land army, and our events. So Dovey was a really nice project, getting seeds out to kids basically. We sent out over 220 packs to children, which included seeds of sunflowers, salad, sugar snap peas, and chard, all things that are easy to grow and they could get started with straight away. The seed co-op in Lincolnshire provided the seeds for us in bulk, and here are the packs here that were distributed through local shops. And each pack had it in, as well as the seeds, also had an information sheet where, do you see this, by the way? Is that in the way? Maybe not.
We can see it.
Ah, great. How do I get rid of it? Okay. Yeah, so there's an information sheet here that the kids designed, local children from the Dovey Valley, and that was a really nice element in it, so that when they receive the packs, they've got pictures drawn by themselves. And it was using money from the co-op that was given to Machmaathon for various workshops that couldn't go ahead because of the COVID-19 situation. So that money was rediverted partly into this project. And here are some of the kids. We didn't want the kids to have all the fun, so we've also set up a seed and seedling swap. So at the moment, Dovey Permaculture is offering a seed swap where you can send a self-addressed envelope to them, and they'll send you back some seeds with what they've got spare. And we've also got a seedling swap outside the co-op that you might have seen. These are, people can just go there, drop off any seedlings, spare seedlings they have, and pick up anything else that they might want to grow. And what's really nice about this is that everyone sees it, it's on the high street, and it's really accessible. These might be some familiar faces to you. One of the other things we're doing is we've massively upscaled farming in the area. So on the right there, you can see Katie and Sam, who've sown 300 kilos of Orla pink fir apple and Cara potatoes. And they're hoping for a 5-ton harvest. In the top left, you can see the people from the Bodfrigan Housing Co-op in Shrevell. They've ploughed up 200 square metres of land in their old hunting lodge estate, which has previously been unused for vegetable growing. And they're planting cabbage and potatoes there. And they've also got 36 metres squared of squash. And they're doing a rare grains trial as well there. And in the bottom left, this is where Sadie, Gareth and Ernan are growing. This was a sheep field a few months ago, and so they've really started from scratch, putting in all the fencing, polytunnel, and completing the infrastructure and the beds for that area. And everything that they're growing is going to be sold to the shop Blood and Tatters on the high street. How's my speed? Am I going too fast? Okay, great.
Good.
Thanks. It's very strange speaking to like what feels like an empty room because you can't hear anything else. So to help all these people grow, we set up a land army. And here on the right are some of these people. We've set up work days pretty much every week at the moment. The next one is next week in Kemais. And people can go and volunteer their time on one of these farms, helping with the growing. Obviously, we adhere to really strict social distancing rules, and lunches and drinks are not shared to avoid contamination. But what's been really nice about that is that people have been able to go out. Food growers are key workers according to the Coronavirus Act 2020. So people have a letter that they carry around with them when they travel, and that says that they're allowed to go. And the feedback from this has been really great because people have had a chance to go out and see people and be in a group safely, do some physical exercise, and I think mentally, the benefits are really well known about gardening and being outside. So that feels like a really, really important part of this project. And it's also invaluable to the farmers as well. This particular farm is in Eglosbach. There's Kate Fennell's there on the left. And she's planted 1,200 potatoes, 1,000 garlic plants, and 500 sweet corn. So she's really scaling up and going big. You can see on the left here is Hamish, the working horse. He's been helping furrow and bridge the land for her. And she's going to be selling her veg in the Green Isle Growers veg bag scheme. This is another one of the farms. This is Dovey farm just outside Penygroes, and run by Paul Bullen. He owns the furniture business that you can see in the top right-hand picture. He's used the old wood chip from that to make paths on his land, and then ordered in a huge, huge load of compost to make the beds. And he's growing salads, kale, and runner beans there to sell to local shops as well. So there he's got 40 beds that are 15 metres long. So it's a really huge scale project, and he's really thinking big about this. And we're also running some events. So we've got a gardener's question time every other Monday at 7 p.m. So it'll be a week on Monday now, and you can see it advertised on Facebook. That's open to anyone. And we're also going to be running some workshops. So there'll be beginners growing workshops. We're planning to run a 4-week course for beginner to intermediate people, sort of changing food group each week. So maybe looking at peas and beans one week and tomatoes another week. And then we'll run some one-off workshops as well. So some on pest control, soil types, crop rotation, and seed saving. Again, that you can see those on our Facebook page and our website. So what hopefully in that super speedy chat I've done is inspire you to get involved. And if you want to get involved through the Land Army, or another thing we're doing is linking up people who have land or who would like land. If you want any resources, or if you want to be part of the organising team, attending the weekly Zoom meetings and doing some of the administrative things that need doing, you can fill in a form on our website. There's a Welsh and an English version of the website. If you need seeds, you can email doveypermaculture@gmail.com. And for the workshops and courses, keep an eye on our Facebook page for the most up-to-date things. And if you have any questions, just email us at plannaboydplantfood@gmail.com. I'll put those links up in the chat as well so that you can copy them if you want to. And on the last slide, I've just put some links to the local growers because we'll be supplying those. So the Green Isle Growers Veg Bag is based in Math. Shoplod in Tatter's is the organic veg shop on the high street. Fresh and Local have a market stall which is still going on Wednesdays. And Machmaifon, which many of you probably know, but with many resources there as well. And Dovey Permaculture Network. Would you like to type in questions in the chat, or type in your name in the chat, and then I'll say your name and you can unmute to ask your question if you have any. Sian, would you like to unmute yourself and ask your question?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
There's two of me because I forwarded the link to Hannah. So yeah, there is technically only one of me. I'm the real Slim Shady on the Zoom call. Firstly, like, amazing. It's so inspiring to hear about everything that everyone's been doing. So absolutely hats off to all the work that you've all put in. And thanks for the talk tonight. I'm really enjoying it. One question I had to kind of, how much kind of coordination is there in terms of what's being grown locally, so that we don't have like an influx of potatoes or cabbages? Is there kind of a way that you're coordinating how different crops are being grown by different people?
Yeah, so we've been looking at doing a Dovey-wide crop plan, and exactly for that reason, to coordinate how much is being grown and where it's going to be sold as well. So that is something that's being worked on, and if anyone wants to join that working group, they're more than welcome. Heather, do you want? Sure. Oh, go on, Katie.
I was going to add to it. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Am I allowed to do that? Sorry.
Do.
I was going to add to say that, yeah, there was some concern initially over, like, we were worried about the crisis, and we were like, quick, let's put loads of food in the ground. But it was like, yeah, are we going to have gluts of stuff, or are we going to undercut existing market gardeners? But then there was a lot of research that I did as part of my Pathways to Farming project, that's within Machmaithlon last year, where we spoke in detail to a lot of businesses in Machynlleth, and there was this huge demand for local produce that wasn't getting met. So when we put stuff in the ground this year, we felt quite confident. I know some of those businesses have changed and restaurants are closed at the moment, but we still felt confident that we had enough businesses on our list who still really wanted to buy more local produce and couldn't find it. So for that reason, we were kind of like, yeah, let's just go for it and put all the food in the ground, because we feel like there's demand. But it was a bit of a rush, because it was suddenly there was a crisis, and it was also spring. So I think, yeah, next year it could definitely be planned more carefully what those crops are, instead of just rushing to plant them all. But I feel optimistic that we'll be able to sell them. But let's see. Yeah.
Thanks, Katie. Katie's also one of the coordinators of the project. Heather, do you want to ask your question?
Yes, I'm just curious to know how much land is now being cultivated by this project. I've been amazed by the speed with which it's all come together. I think it's fantastic, but I've got no understanding of what the area of land roughly is being turned over to this kind of growing.
Yeah, right. It has been quick. You're right. There are about 7 farms involved with the project at the moment. Katie, do you know about land area?
I should have actually just added them all up. I can put a link in the chat window to a blog that we wrote about all the new field scale production, and it kind of says in there what areas each farm is using. But I mean, with our potatoes, it's nearly an acre of potatoes, and then I would say it adds up to maybe like 3 acres in total across like 6 or 7 different farms, which doesn't sound like a lot, but in terms of vegetables, that is a lot, because vegetables are quite space efficient and, yeah, labor intensive. So I'm guessing at 3 acres, but I should add it up. Maybe I'll do that while you continue asking questions.
Great. Judith, you have a question.
Hello. I think it's great, and I'm inspired by by the fact that it's gone large scale. I think that's brilliant. Can I ask about the finances? Are people who are doing this doing it completely at risk, or was there some sort of seed corn central support to get people started?
Again, Katie, you're really involved with the field scale, so you know better than me about that one, I think.
There was no funding at all. Our group hasn't had any funding. Planna Fwyd hasn't. So all the farmers paid the costs themselves. And that's the idea. We're hoping to sell the produce and be able to recoup some of the money that it cost for seed and ground preparation. It would have been awesome to get funding. But again, people just felt this urgency that it was spring and that there was concerns over food supply. So they just did it. They put their own money in. And I'm part of the field scale potato growers. And yeah, we've spent £400 on seed potatoes and like £150 on having the land ploughed and some machinery as well. So yeah, we've taken a risk of quite a few £100s, and we're just hoping that get a crop we can sell some of it and recoup the money. Yeah, it just felt like important to do it quickly. But yeah, in future, again, it would be great to have seed funding to get more machinery and like to be able to do more. Yeah, and also a lot of the people, like Helen said, who are volunteering to help like through the Land Army, they're all volunteering their time. So it's pretty amazing that everything's just been pulled together with no money.
It's actually been really nice not having any money involved. Becky, do you want to ask your question? You're on mute.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
I'm hopeless with Zoom.
We're all learning.
Never used it before this last 2 weeks. I was wondering whether you knew if there were any other similar schemes locally, because I'm based near Borth, so I'm sort of strictly slightly out of the Dovey Valley. It seems like something that could be scaled up, and also if you've got machinery, if you can kind of share it around, obviously that would make a lot of sense because it's expensive stuff.
That's definitely something we talked about at the beginning, is how big do we want to go? And I think perhaps, yeah, the point where I got involved, and started thinking really big and started thinking, oh, the whole Dovey Valley and this huge area, and then we realised actually our resources could only cope with Mac itself and the surrounding area, so we decided to concentrate on that. And I think sharing resources is such a good point, because that's really what we're about, is people not necessarily having the funds to buy a particular machine, but being able to share it and reuse stuff as well. So that's definitely a big part of what we do. I don't know of anything specifically near Borth. Would you like to start one?
Well, yeah, I don't know. I mean, there is the community gardens in Borth itself, so I don't know if they're aware of your group, but I know some people in that, so it would be worth me finding out whether they sort of know about it. Because I did ask her about seed swaps, and they don't really, they said they don't really do them much, which seemed a bit kind of crazy. So I mean, I've kind of got a situation where I've got tons of seeds that I can't possibly use all in my garden, and no one to kind of swap them with. So even just a little thing like that would be quite easy to scale. And presumably the seed swap side of things, anybody could join in with that, as it were, just sending in everything.
Yeah, absolutely. You could definitely do that. And even maybe Katie, could you put the email address to Tammy in there? And maybe talk to Tammy, because she'd be really good to talk about.
Permaculture email address.
Yeah. Yeah.
Becky, we do have at the Cletter community shop, we have a seed and seedling swap table. You're very welcome to
yeah.
any unwanted seeds along and ensure that we take them for them. Yeah, thank you. I'd forgotten about that actually. My husband mentioned it. Obviously, I'm not going out very much, so I haven't kind of seen what's going on. But, yeah.
There's also one in Aberystwyth happening, seedling swap. There's an Aberystwyth food group. I can't remember its actual real name, but Jane Powell is majorly to do with it.
Okay.
But yeah, you'd have thought both could stand its own version, you'd have thought.
Well, I would definitely think so, yeah. And we've got so much agricultural land all around.
Great. Heather, do you want to ask your question?
I don't know whether it's because of the pandemic, but suddenly growing food seems more real, and it just feels like this project is a significant step change, and I think it's very exciting. I was just wondering if you feel that as well, or is it a natural progression of what you're already doing on the same scale, or do you think it's a bigger scale that you're working at now?
I think it's definitely a bigger scale and bigger interest in it. I think there's been a lot more uptake, people feeling that sense of urgency, like Katie said. The hit of the pandemic came in spring, where there was a time to be planting seeds, and so that was a great opportunity for people to really connect with that, and also to feel like they were doing something active, watching something grow and feeling that feeling of progress, I guess. But no, it definitely feels bigger to me, and certainly personally I've planted way more, sown way more, just upscaled a lot. And I mean, obviously it existed before, and Math Marathon has been doing great work for 8 years, and I think there was just a sudden burst of energy inspired by the pandemic. I don't know, do other people feel that?
Yeah,
A few.
feels like growing is really there's an urgency this year, and we're putting in the extra effort. You know, it's so important now more than ever to get it right, and all those years spent learning and experimenting coming into play now.
Yeah, and I guess some of us have more time as well. Anyone that's been furloughed, or well, not anyone, people have other commitments too, but yeah, I think having that little bit more time has meant that people get out in their gardens more as well.
And Katie, you might know the answer to this question really. I'm just wondering, has there been any kind of farmers who are traditionally doing sheep farming that have come forward who expressed an interest in growing this year but haven't managed to get in there on time? Or is there, apart from brand new growers, is there more established farmers involved in projects?
So I work on the Math Marathon project. I'm one of the volunteer directors, and for a few years we've been running the Pathways to Farming project. So we've been trying to teach new commercial food growers. In fact, one of them's here now. Heather is on the course, and it's, yeah, we've been trying to connect with farmers in the area. And I feel like over the years that I've been working for Math Marathon, like more farmers have got in touch with us and have become interested in growing different crops on their farms. And a couple of years ago, a bunch of us started growing wheat and oats on Mellendorf Farm in Furness, and that spurred us to connect with some other farmers who were interested in doing the same. So I feel like we've been slowly building up a relationship with local farmers, and maybe slowly getting to know farmers who were interested in offering land and maybe also growing different crops. But I feel like that's been something that's been gradually happening over the years, and possibly like during this crisis there has been more farmers interested in doing that, but they haven't come forward to Pathways to Farming or Planna Fwyd yet. But I suppose, you know, we've only been in this crisis for a couple of months, so I guess my answer is that farmers seem to be becoming more and more interested in growing different crops, and that's been happening kind of gradually, and hopefully will continue to happen. Yeah.
Thank you, Katie. Thank you.
Can I say something about that?
Yeah, go ahead.
It's all right to discuss rather than just have questions.
Yeah.
Okay. I think for a lot of, for example, sheep farmers, they'll be in an agri-environment scheme or an agreement, and they have to wait they get a break point 5 years into the agreement when they can change the way they do something. So it's not easy to turn the farm business in a different direction. So I think that, you know, that might explain some of the speed at which change might happen. That's just what I wanted to say.
Yeah, thank you, Heather. I think it's a huge consideration, isn't it, for farmers, and the planning and the rotation and the feeding of grasses and whatnot. Yeah, it's massive. I hadn't thought of that.
Does anyone have any more questions?
Could I, I'm the other Shan. I'm actually Hannah Engelkamp. Could I just introduce you to my little garden?
Why not?
It's relevant because it's just here. It's in Aberystwyth, next to the closed playground and the public toilets in the castle. And I've been a gardener since the day before lockdown. So I'm just getting my first harvest. And so the reason I wanted to mention it was because a friend who's a councillor just said, well, the gardens department have all been furloughed, so go for it. So I've just been cutting my teeth on this little patch, which I rather liked because it had a little bit of a fence anyway, so it felt a little bit more contained. Everything's looking scruffy as hell at the moment because of the winds over the last few days, so I've lost a lot of kale and pumpkins and sunflowers, but the older part of the garden is weedy but intact. So there's loads and loads and loads of other patches all over Aberystwyth, and so if anybody wants a bit of help getting going and likes the same idea, or maybe wants to come from Borth, it might be too far, but you'd be very welcome. It's not mine, but you'd be very welcome, and I'd happily lend you any of the few tools that I've got.
Great. We should put you in touch with our land team who are looking at people that can offer land, because there are some people looking for land, so maybe that would be useful.
It's not mine to offer, but and you have to be a bit zen about it because you don't know whether, you know, there's always dog turds and things, but yeah, absolutely. I'll certainly, there's lots of lovely little patches. I'd certainly happily show anyone around the bits that I've seen.
Great. Are there any more questions about Fwyd?
I was quite excited to hear rumour that they were growing chickpeas over at Mellingur. Is that right, Katie? Or Helen?
It's the carling pea, which is like the pea which people call the British chickpea, and Hodmedods sell the carling pea. I don't know if you know, Hodmedods, a UK pulse selling business. They farm pulses in the UK. So Kate at Mellingur is trialling the carling pea. Is it the carling pea? Have I got that right? I think so. It's a pea that's known as a chickpea replacement.
Okay, that's amazing. Yeah.
I think they did grow chickpeas at Cat, I believe, last year. Meg says yeah, they did.
I was just going to answer because I said I would work out the area squared in new food production. So I just added it up, and so in terms of new land that's been turned over this year for community scale vegetables, I've got 2,436 meters squared, which is actually like just over half an acre. So that's actually quite a lot of vegetables, but not a lot of land if you think in like hundreds of acres. And then we've got the whole acre of potatoes as well. And then there's also all the existing market gardens and farms in the area that were already growing. So that's new growing land, is just over half an acre of vegetables plus an acre of potatoes.
Great, thanks, Katie.
And is there any kind of data on how much, you know, a household would need, like land-wise, to keep it going in vegetables, or is that even possible to calculate?
Nice question. I don't know the answer to that one. Does Katie?
I think there's quite a lot of different figures banded around, and I never find the one that's like the definitive one. There's one fact that I like from Amber Wheeler from she's from Horticulture Wales. She works with Dovey Cymru. She was analysing horticulture in Wales and saying that if everyone in Wales was to eat 7 fruit and veg a day, and that was all to be grown in Wales, we would need 2% of the country to be in vegetable production. Because actually, we don't, vegetables are quite land efficient. So 2% is a lot less than I thought. But currently, at the moment, it's something like 0.001 or something. So there's basically hardly any vegetables being produced here. So it would still be like a significant increase, but it would be 2% of the land in Wales. But it would have to be grade 1 to 3 land, which is like the best quality. So we might need more land if it wasn't the best quality land. That's just a random fact I can throw out, but I don't know per household. I've never found a definitive answer. I don't know if anyone else knows.
No, thank you, Katie. Thank you.
Okay, any further questions before I play you my outro song?
I think there's maybe one more from Judith. Question?
Oh yeah, go Judith.
Yeah, hello. So next year, what area, how many polytunnels, how much does it cost, where's it going to be? It would just be, it's brilliant. It's brilliant what's happening this year. And is it time to start making next year's plan? I mean, I'm only saying that I am completely incompetent and I'm not going to make a plan, but feels like this room is kind of full of people that maybe could be making a plan.
Yeah, that would be great. I think I think we're definitely in the kind of let's really put all our energy into this year because we're in a crisis and but I think you're right, we do need to start thinking about beyond that. I don't know what more to say about that really. I would love there to be a whole new working group that's thinking about next year, if anyone wants to start thinking about that.
Basically join us.
Yeah.
We need help. And if anyone's good at making plans for costings and infrastructure, please join us. That would be great.
We'll put up our links in the chat now, if anyone wants to copy that. There's the Facebook and the website, and you can email us at planavoidplantfood@gmail.com if you have any questions. If you want to get involved with any part of it, organising, if you want to volunteer with the land army, if you've got land to offer, if you just want to know where to buy compost at the moment, we've got all of that knowledge, so get in touch with us. It'll be super nice.